Don't call it a call.
How we doing, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Corner Launch with Jeremy Griffin.
Gina Marie.
And Gina Marie. This is our sixth show, guys. This is a show that we have made for the Tampa community. This is a show where you can call in, get answers on how to get from point A to point B. We got a lot of problems in this country. None of them are going to solve it themselves, okay? It's up to you as an individual to take action. We've also got my homeboy Tyler with us today.
What up, what up?
And we're also joined by Miss Christine Wall. Christine, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about yourself real quick.
Hi, I'm the community coordinator for March Against Monsanto here in the Tampa Bay area, as well as the program director and market manager for Sweetwater Organic Community Farm.
And if anybody has never been to Sweetwater, I highly suggest it. Guys, we have somebody that's calling in today that is essentially exactly what it is that I talk about with this show every single time. Her name is Tammy Canal, and she is the founder of March Against Monsanto, which, if you have not heard about March Against Monsanto, I think you're probably living under a rock someplace, okay? In my eyes, she is essentially what more people need to be doing. She set the standard. She is a woman who decided that she had had enough with something and did what she had to do. Do we have Tammy on the phone? Tammy, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Hi to all your listeners, and I would like to give a special shout out to Christine. I didn't know we were going to have a local organizer on, so thank you. I'm really excited to be on the phone with her.
Yay!
Awesome, Tammy. That sounds great. Listen, I want everybody to know that this is a call-in show, guys, okay? So if you have questions for Tammy, if you want to know how it is that she does all this, if you want to know how it is that she took nothing more than passion and energy and turned it into one of the largest movements in the country, this is your opportunity, okay? That phone number is 813-239-9663, 813-239-9663. That email is dj@WMNF. We'll get those answers taken care of live on air. All right, Tammy, so what we're going to do right now, I want to kind of go into the backstory because I think that you probably have talked about the specific issues that you're representing a lot. I want to hear kind of about what it was like. What was Tammy's life like before you kind of became this organizing, this organizer that is really doing something really, really big? What did your life look like beforehand?
I mean, it was really typical and quiet. I had just had my second daughter, and I was just your, typical stay-at-home mom, volunteering in my older daughter's school classes, cooking from scratch, making baby food for my little girl. And at that time, the 2012 election was happening. And in California, where I was living at the time, there was a ballot initiative famously known as Prop 37, which was instigated by Pam Larry, a grandmother up in Northern California. And it was all this talk suddenly about a GMO. And I actually had worked in the restaurant industry as a server for about a decade prior to having children. So I had been around food my whole life, and never once had I heard about a GMO. So I'm like, what is this? What is this thing that people are saying is going to make our grocery bills expensive? And so I just kind of started doing some research because, I obviously care a lot about what I'm putting in my children's bodies. And I was horrified, really stunned to find out just about Monsanto and the corruption with our regulating agencies. Michael Taylor at that time was the head of the FDA in charge of food safety. And come to find out, he had been jumping back and forth between the FDA, the USDA, and Monsanto for the better part of a couple decades. And it was just such a conflict of interest, and I was just really angry to realize that all this time I'm feeding my kids fruits and vegetables that I thought were healthy, and in reality were the exact opposite.
Pretty shocking that somebody at a big agency would be bouncing back and forth between the lobbyists and the agency, huh?
Yeah, it's a tremendous conflict of interest.
Yeah, I think that probably happens a lot more than we realize. So at what point then did you decide, okay, I'm gonna start doing something, and kind of walk us through what that process looked like for maybe the first 6 months there?
Well, right after that election, we actually made an out-of-state move. We relocated to Utah. And once we got here, there was definitely a lacking of the organic outlets that I started turning to in California. In California, there's a lot more farmers markets. Just the growing season is a lot different than here in Utah, where we have, 5 months of snow. So I was like really kind of bothered that there weren't more like healthy options, and I was spending a small fortune to feed my little family. And I just thought, we could change this. If more consumers knew, we can be like the demand and change the landscape of the food supply. So I just thought, I'm going to start this Facebook page to create awareness, and hopefully my original goal was to get about 3,000 people in various cities just out into their communities to hand out flyers and raise awareness, because I'm a strong believer in when we know better, we do better. And I mean, it just went viral. I started the page at the end of February of 2013. And March, that very next month, President Obama actually signed the Monsanto Protection Act. And people were just outraged that Monsanto, this big corporation, would be given judicial immunity. I mean, so we basically have this corporation who is producing cancer-causing weed killer and these GMO crops. And if their products make someone sick, there's no recourse for the people to do anything. They were literally untouchable. So I think that the March Against Monsanto really gave people an outlet to funnel this outrage and do something productive.
I think that you hit the nail on the head. And sometimes when you get going down that road, things just kind of happen in sequence. Like him signing that right after you had gotten going with this was really, luck is kind of a thing that people like to say, but that is really, the stars are aligning pretty great. Guys, I want you to call in if you have any questions for Tammy, okay? As you can hear, she literally just said, I'm going to do something about this, and all she did was started a Facebook page, guys. That's literally how anything that you see that is big like that, that is how it starts. There's no big grand opening. There is no big, there's ultra planning session. We're going to build an army of 500 people before we put ourselves out there. She just decided to do it. She went for it. That phone number, guys, 813-239-9663. 813-239-9663. That email is dj@wmnf.org. So, Tammy, I understand that you have a on-again, off-again relationship with Facebook at this point, simply because you have grown this thing to the point where they're having a little bit of a conflict, obviously, with, people that they roll with, and you're a total disruptor at this point. Tell me a little bit, though, about when you got going with Facebook, because regardless of Facebook or, we could talk about AT&T, Verizon, and all this stuff. I mean, these are big, huge companies. They are still tools to use. Tell us a little bit about when you launched that, and how did that start to scale out then? Did they just start, walk us through that. Like, so you started the Facebook page, a month and a half later, people started coming over there like crazy. What did you do after that? What was the thought process after that?
Well, first off, I want to touch on the censorship that we deal with. In the beginning, I guess we were kind of more off the radar, which is crazy because the page did go so viral.
They loved you then, right?
Yeah, exactly. Things have changed a lot since 2013. We now have counter protesters that show up. We have, we call them trolls. I'm sure your listeners are familiar with that term, that just outright attack the page. They'll pick a particular post and just report it, and then we have a little bit of editing help on the page. So our editors have actually received bans. It's a complete suppression of freedom of speech. It's really crazy to watch just how they don't like something, so they shut it down. So while I think Facebook is a great platform, I do think that we need to be looking for alternatives that support freedom of speech. I don't really know very many out there. I know there's one that's kind of starting up, Minds.com, that we're slowly, building on. But the suppression of freedom of speech should really be eye-opening to everyone. They obviously have something they're trying to hide.
And there's that is kind of an interesting discussion, I think, there. And I was having that with somebody the other day, where you used to have public utilities. And they were public, and they were kind of public for a reason, in that when they are public, you have certain constitutional rights that come along with it. When everything becomes completely privatized, it might be more efficient. That's the argument, right? But you also don't have the ability to tell Facebook now, hey, I should be able to say that. They're like, well, it's our company. We'll do whatever we want, right? And now they are at such scale, things become almost, too big to fail, right? And we're all certainly familiar with that. So when you guys started to get really big, Tammy, And like, did people just start kind of organically making their own Facebook pages and kind of joining this, or did you set a date for the first March and everybody else just kind of started to spring up around that?
Yeah, the way that I went about it is I actually started just going through and picking cities and, big places that would be a good March location within these cities. And I just started creating the events. I didn't wait for an organizer to jump on. So when people would visit the Facebook page, they would see, oh, hey, there's one near me. I'm going to go to that. So basically when we had organizers step forward, they already had their event with attendees. And it just was really like a good approach, I think, because a good portion of the work was already done. They already had, people committed to attending, people that, were like, we're going to donate banners, we have sound. So once the organizer stepped in, it was, I'm not going to say all the work was done because our organizers are amazing. That is honestly probably the one thing that I'm the most proud of with my work is how many leaders that we have created, and just seeing people step up, determined to make their communities better, has just been incredible.
That's for me listening to this right now, I think that the most incredible thing is that you didn't just put it out there and say, hey guys, come on, I'm doing this. Who else wants to do it? You actually went and aggressively started targeting other major markets and setting things up and saying, this is what we're doing. Who's on board? I think that right there for me is a huge eye opener, and it should be a huge eye opener for all of the listeners. You weren't waiting for everybody else to get on board. You kind of just forced it through almost. And lo and behold, it worked, right? Guys, that number is 813-239-9663. 813-239-9663. Tammy, we got a phone call here. If you want to hop onto that. We've got Nick from Occupy Tampa. Nick, what's going on? How are we?
All right. I just got to express my love and gratitude for Tammy Canal, because I am one of the organizers for Occupy Tampa and the March Against Monsanto here in Tampa. We've been doing this for years. We started Be Against Monsanto from March Against Monsanto. And with my family, my activist family here, that we all knew each other from Occupy. But Tammy Canal started the ball rolling on this. Like, we've made changes.
She's the godfather.
Godmother.
Yeah, the godmother.
Get your gender right.
but I know Christine Wall's there, too.
Hey, Nick. How you doing, buddy?
I love you.
I love you, too.
But we've done this, and, like, we've been the main organizers here in Tampa. But Tammy got the ball rolling, and everybody needs to know about GMOs. Like, it sounds like a horror story, and it really is. Like, it sounds like this is something out of a science fiction movie, but it's not. Like, GMOs, they're in everything we eat and everything we consume. There's so much soybean and corn in everything we eat. Sorry, if you're a beer drinker, or if you're trying to eat organically, GMOs are still in your diet, no matter how hard you try to cut them out. Bread, for one, there's 5 types of GMOs in the bread you're eating every day. And then the meat you're eating is fed GMOs. Everything.
It's definitely gotten pretty pervasive.
You can't get away from it, even as much as you try. But even, like, my biggest point is the USDA organic badge is not allowed to discriminate against GMOs. If you are consuming food, it needs to have the non-GMO Project Verified label on it, because even anything USDA organic, if it doesn't have that badge, you're still eating GMOs. And
right. Well, Sweetwater is a USDA certified organic farm, and we use no GMO products whatsoever. So we're strictly regulated by OMRI. So we do have the symbol for the USDA certified organic, and we're not allowed to use genetically modified seeds or any other products in our production.
Yep. But they're all
and you get to know your farmer. Okay. So, I mean, when you go back to food, that's what it's all about, I think, now, because we can't trust these big companies, is you have to have a personal relationship for the people that are growing your food, or you need to grow your own food to some degree.
Yeah, no, definitely growing your own is doing it yourself. If you want it done right? The saying's not around by accident, right? Nick, we really appreciate everything you do, bro.
All right.
Thank you, Nick. Thanks for being an organizer.
Like, thank you, and no GMO.
So, Tammy, there you go. See, that's one of the people that you spurred into action there. And I can tell you, living here in Tampa, that first march that we had, I don't even know. How many people were there, Christine?
I think there was about 800 people.
Yeah, I mean, it was impressive. So, just so everybody knows, we're speaking here with Tammy Canale. She is the founder of March Against Monsanto. She literally decided on her own she was going to make a difference, started with a Facebook page, pushed it through. Humongous movement now, guys, okay? All this stuff is possible. This is why we make this show, so that at least one person listening to this show will hear this and decide, I am not going to sit around and say, we should do this, we should do this. I'm going to say, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to keep pushing it through until it happens. Guys, if you have any questions, the phone number here is 813-239-9663. 813-239-9663. You can email them in, dj@wmnf.org. So, Tammy, take us into your world as you guys are getting ready for the very first march to happen. What was that like from who you are, and what was going through your mind at that moment?
Well, we could see the momentum building 1,000%. Like I said, the Monsanto Protection Act really made people angry. And I mean, like every day we would go into our email inbox and we would just have dozens of people saying, hey, I want to organize for my city. I don't care if it's me with a sign, like I'm going to get out and educate my community, which, you know, like what you said about Tampa having 800 people, that's phenomenal. But I mean, even like one or two people standing on a street corner, handing flyers out in their Walmart parking lot, that makes a difference too. So if you're going forward and thinking that you'd like to join the March Against Monsanto, you don't need to be overwhelmed thinking that you need to have 500 people come out to your event. I mean, obviously that's great, but you can make a difference just one person. So, don't be intimidated thinking that this is some overwhelming task. We need organizers. We need leaders. We need to be educating every community in this country, in the world, really.
Tammy, how many people marched in that first one, would you guess?
It was between 2 and 3 million. We really never were able to figure out the exact number because of the media blackout. So it was really hard to, get an exact number. But I mean, we had 51 countries participate. We had marches on 6 of 7 continents. Obviously, nobody was marching in Antarctica, and over 400 cities participated. So it was really quite, ignited a global fervor. 2 to 3 million people, guys. I want everybody to think about that for a little bit. And this just simply started because Tammy decided she was going to do something. Guys, we're joined right now by Tammy Canale, which is one of my probably favorite organizers on the entire planet, simply because I helped a lot with that first one in Tampa, and I thought it was really cool. And Christine helped a lot, and Nick and all those guys, and it was a wild success. Talk a little bit, though, about the issues that you are having now, because you're right. I remember after that happened, we thought this was the coolest thing on the planet, right? And a lot of people were involved in that, and they were like, wow, we haven't seen anything like that since Occupy, right? This is almost like Occupy 2.0 for a lot of us, right? So we're like, wow, this is wild. Total media blackout. Like absolute 100% media blackout. There's people marching in the hundreds and the thousands from coast to coast. Not a single television station. And I don't even think really most of the local ones picked it up either.
I think we might have a small article in Tampa Bay Times.
Right, so, I mean, talk about that, Tammy, on what that is like dealing with that, where you've put together this essentially a mass movement, and everybody just basically says, nope, we're not going to even humor you.
Well, I think that should open people's eyes to the level of corruption within our media. I believe it's 6 corporations own all news and television outlets.
Yep.
And they're funded heavily by corporations like Monsanto. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody listening has seen all of Monsanto's pro-industry propaganda commercials that are on TV. It's obscene. And, the media can't make their corporate sponsors angry, or they're going to lose their advertising money. I mean, it's corruption every angle that you want to look at it.
It's a pretty bought-out media system at this point by far. I would definitely agree on you with that. Tammy, Christine runs a couple of things here in Tampa, and I'm going to let her kind of expand upon just issues with organizing and whatnot. I know that you've put on quite a few things, Christine, over there. Talk a little bit about the issues that you have with organizing and the hassles, and then talk a little bit about, the opportunity that social media provides for organizing, even though you have to deal with the censorship aspects now.
I think the most difficult part of organizing for me is that is the accountability sometimes. People are doing things on a volunteer basis, and sometimes it's hard to get them to commit to follow through with what they said they're going to do.
Nobody's getting paid.
Right, and one person or two people cannot do it all, and it can be really overwhelming. So you have to really be driven by passion and be driven by your convictions that you're going to do this no matter what it takes. And for me, this particular cause is everybody has to eat, okay? I work in an organic farm. Genetically modified organisms are a direct threat to my dream job and the place that I love to work. So, genetically modified organisms permanently contaminate the gene pool too. Once they're out there, you can't take it back and erase it or clean it up. It's just out there. So the people that are working with me closely, we have a great passion and desire to raise awareness. I basically have to say that I believe we've lost the labeling law. We did not have enough support from people calling into their senators, etc., when they were voting on that. So Monsanto has a list of evils that we can go after. And right now, what I'm working on with some of my compatriots is getting a Freedom of Information Request Act for where they're spraying glyphosate and Roundup on our public spaces like playgrounds for children in the crevices of sidewalks, on school grounds, etc., and waiting for the results of that.
So explain what a Freedom of Information Act is, and then Tammy, if you want to jump in and double down on any of this, by all means, feel free to.
So the Freedom of Information Request Act is a citizen's right or a person's right to inquire from the government what's going on, okay? This is the way that we're targeting right now, is to find out where glyphosate, or i.e. Roundup, is being sprayed. But you can have a Freedom of Information request about a number of things, okay? A great variety of things. You want to find, finances for a public company, whatever. You want to just ask questions about certain things.
So they're a lot more transparent sometimes than the government is. I know that we've gone down the road of trying to get information before, and
well, I'm waiting to hear back. Yeah. I haven't heard back yet, but I will be persistent in those inquiries, that's for sure. So
Tammy, and just so everybody knows, we're joined by Tammy Canale right now, the founder of March Against Monsanto. If you guys have any questions for her, 813-239-9663. Tammy, explain the issues that you guys have in your communications of your mission, because I'm sure you're well aware, obviously, misinformation. Oh, you guys support this? That means you support ABC too. And all of the other nonsense that comes along with political organizing. How do you guys navigate the educational aspect and then the misinformation that happens? What do you guys do about that?
Well, we're really big on following the money. For example, there is an organization, the Genetic Literacy Project, which, we get slammed by them all the time. They call us anti-science. Tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorists. They have said every derogatory thing possible about March Against Monsanto. Come to find out, they're actually a quote unquote think tank that is funded by Monsanto. So it's no surprise that
shocking.
They're out there running this. I'm sorry.
I said shocking, right? Shocking again. What a shock.
One of their writers actually writes for Forbes, which is a well-known publication, very well read by millions of people. And so when you learn that Monsanto is basically funding this big discrediting effort of our movement, it really makes you think who's really anti-science here? Because as far as I'm concerned, the science is not settled on GMOs and glyphosate like Monsanto's think tanks. I hate calling them that.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what they are.
Propaganda machines. How about that?
Exactly. And I don't know how many of your listeners are aware of the lawsuit that's happening right now in Northern California that Robert Kennedy Jr. is actually spearheading, but it involves a bunch of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma patients, and they have they've uncovered emails and, just thousands of pages of documents. one of the most enraging things to me is the revelation that the EPA has actually been working with Monsanto to bury the research on glyphosate. The head of the pesticide division, his name is Jess Rollins. There were emails uncovered in this lawsuit that basically said, if he's quoted as saying, "If I can bury this, I deserve a medal." And they did. They buried all the research that basically proved glyphosate does in fact cause cancer. So we have a taxpayer-funded organization working in cahoots with Monsanto, and basically we as taxpayers are helping fund our own demise. I mean, it's just disgusting.
All in many areas, I would add too. Guys, we're going to take another phone call here, but I want everybody to know we got Tammy Canale, founder of March Against Monsanto, is here to answer your questions, guys. That number is 813-239-9663. Let's go to Alma in Lakeland. Alma, how are we?
Good.
What's going on, Alma? What's on your mind here today?
Question, can you share with people who don't know when the first Monsanto March happened, and is it an annual basis so people could get involved? Secondly, there's a 10-part webinar that's out, and I wonder if you're aware of it, regarding Monsanto and other GMO, dangers. It was sponsored by the Sacred Plant. I'm sorry I don't know the name of the webinar, but it's on currently right now. It's like a 10-part, 2.5-hour webinar series that's very revealing about GMO. So thank you for your answers.
Yeah, you got it, Alma. Tammy, I'm going to let you give the big, broad rundown of how the events happen and all that, and then we'll bounce over to Christine. She can kind of give some more localized information.
I only heard hi, Alma. I only heard the first part of her question asking about when the first march was. Is that correct?
Yeah, she wanted to know when the first march was, and then if this is an ongoing, thing, and how can she get involved and all that good stuff.
Perfect. Yes, the first march was May 25th, 2013. Since then, we've actually had 7 global marches. We try to get out into our communities on World Food Day as well. Those are more like festival kind of things where we try to make it fun and offer solutions, encourage people to start growing their own garden, even if it's just something like, small, like a window box, just, starting from somewhere. The next global event will actually be, we've set the date for May 19th, 2018.
You said May 19th?
May 19th, yes.
Gotcha.
And Alma, we would love to have you join us as an organizer or a supporter, or however you would like to help in your capacity. Please email addmymarch@gmail.com and we will get you going.
Awesome. And then Christine, as far as local information, what do we want to hand out for Alma there real quick?
So if she wants any tips or anything, she wants to meet face-to-face, she can always message me on the March Against Monsanto Tampa Facebook page. I'm just hoping, Tammy, that our May 19th isn't the same day as Hands Across the Sands this year.
I'm not sure about that. We actually did a poll in our organizers group because we wanted, feedback, and, I don't like just picking the date. I want it to be something that works for the majority of the organizers. Obviously, it's very hard to please, hundreds of people.
I would say that it's impossible this day and age to put an event together and not have any overlap.
Always upset about the date that we pick, and, it's just really hard. So
you kind of just got to kind of go with it.
There.
No, you're totally right about that. That's awesome. Guys, we're joined by Tammy Canale, lead organizer, founder of March Against Monsanto. She started this herself, guys. She started it with a Facebook page and a ton of ambition, and then a desire to just not quit, okay? She's here to answer your questions. The phone number is 813-239-9663. You can email them in, dj@wmnf.org. Let's take another call. We have Willow in Valrico. Willow, are you there?
Hi, good morning, everybody.
Hey, Willow.
Hi there.
Good morning.
I have a question, but first I wanted to make a comment about the labeling laws. Next time we have an opportunity to advocate for that in the state, one of the misinformation they spread whenever there's in any state a labeling law is it's going to make products cost so much to change the labeling. And I think they really swayed it in California years ago. They really just pushed that propaganda. But keep in mind that every time there's some new food fad, manufacturers willingly and automatically change their labels to show low carb, low fat, low this, low sodium, whatever. So they're always making decisions to change that, and that doesn't double the price of food or, all of the other things that they say is going to happen if we had labeling. So I just wanted to
Do you have anything you'd like to ask, Willow?
Yeah, so my question is, I know initially there were only 4 plants that commercially were available GMO, but now there's many more vegetables that are. And I no longer know what the full list of the present GMO vegetables. So do either of your people have that information?
What do you think, Tammy? Do you have some kind of like an ongoing list that is updated, I guess, along, different providers and things like that? Or is it kind of just buyer beware?
I mean, honestly, I would say it's buyer beware, because even if something isn't technically genetically modified, they're spraying it with glyphosate. And I also wanted to bring up the point, right now I'm involved with this documentary called GMOs Revealed. And one of the interviews was with Dr. Zach Bush, and he was actually talking about how glyphosate has completely contaminated our waterways. So there's even a concern now with glyphosate on our organics. And Moms Across America, Zen Honeycutt, I don't know if your listeners are familiar with the warrior that she is, but she has actually conducted a lot of lab testing, and it is true. We are starting to see our organics now being contaminated with Monsanto's weed killer.
It just spreads, doesn't it?
But
yeah, it's frightening,
and that is also horrifying. But I specifically want to know, I know that beets and squash, like yellow squash, zucchini, and Swiss chard have now been genetically modified. Are either of your guests aware of any other common vegetables?
I know they're working on apples. I think I heard they were working on papayas,
mushrooms.
Potatoes, yes.
Well, and then, of course, you've got the whole Frankenfish. Yeah, the Frankenfish category there. I mean, if that's not absolutely terrifying, I mean, what an absolute mess. And I got to tell you, though, and this is something that I want the people that are listening to realize, a lot of the people that you guys vote for are taking money from the people that are making this happen. Okay, so a lot of listeners right now really are passionate about that, and they don't like it. And then every 2 years or every 4 years, they go and vote for people that go down the road with the people who are making this possible and basically endorse the very thing they hate.
And we also need to be aware that the people who teach at our agricultural schools in the state and extension services, they often are not only trained by people coming from these chemical industries, but often they spend time at GMO companies.
That's a good point, too.
It's an excellent point.
Chemical, and they're teaching, and then they go back. So
yep, and somebody's paying them, too, okay?
Yeah.
I appreciate the phone call. Everybody, just so everybody knows, we got Tammy Canale, founder of March Against Monsanto, joining us today. She is an incredible organizer. What's that, Tammy?
I was just going to say, to touch on that point that she was just making about our politicians, I would like your listeners to be aware that in November of last year, the United States actually became the first country in the world to ban GMO labeling. 38 countries all over the world ban GMOs, but here in the States, we ban labeling. It's completely unconstitutional.
And the people raise their hand and ask for it every single election, ask for more of it. That's, for me, the most frustrating part of it. Tammy, just so everybody knows, we got Tammy Canale here, founder of March Against Monsanto. She's here to talk about how she just decided, literally, she's going to take action. She made it happen from nothing more than a Facebook page, guys. Okay, and this is the biggest... Tammy, how do you even classify this? And just so everybody knows, 813-239-9663. 813-239-9663. Tammy, I want to ask you this, and then we're going to go to our next caller, Stephen. Tammy, how do you classify the movement at this point? What is that one line that you use? Because I hear all sorts of anti-GMO, the clean foods movement, but what is it that you use that sums it up?
I mean, we're definitely anti-Monsanto. I like to really stress that this isn't just about GMOs. That. I mean, Monsanto dabbles in chemical warfare. They produce the world's supply of white phosphorus, which is being dropped on civilian populations in the Middle East. I mean, they're just a horrible company. They obviously had a role in the production of Agent Orange, which is still devastating. Generations later, actually, my partner who helps me run March Against Monsanto, Kelly Derricks, her father served in Agent Orange, and now she is dying of illnesses inflicted by Agent Orange in a war that she wasn't even alive to see. I mean, it's just a travesty. So we're very anti-Monsanto
Yeah.
and all things that go with them.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, let's clarify that. The company that invented Agent Orange is controlling your food supply.
DDT,
Let that sink in a little bit.
PCBs, dioxin. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Okay, so guys, we again, 813-239-9663. You got questions for anybody here? We've got myself. We've got my homegirl, Gina. We got my man, Tyler. And we're also joined by Christine Wall from Sweetwater. She's also the local organizer here, one of them, for March Against Monsanto. That number is 813-239-9663 or email dj@wmnf.org. Let's take another phone call here. Do we still have Steven on the line from Largo?
Yes, Stefan from Largo. Thank you.
Steven, what's going on? How are we?
I'm doing great. I was just listening, and first time I'm calling, but I feel like this is just exactly kind of what I'm dealing with on a daily basis in a different way. I work at a native plant nursery in Largo, Florida, and one of the few in the area that's still around. There are a few others, but we pretty much advocate for people using less chemicals and pesticides and all the things that we spray on our lawns and our ornamental grasses and our trees that mostly are from exotic places. And there's a reason that we have to use so many chemicals on them, and it kind of feeds into that system that you guys are advocating to kind of break down in a way. And we're just about to get into fall planting season for vegetables, and we're always trying to advocate not only for people to take out pieces of this lawn that's so water intensive and chemical intensive, but also to plant their own food crops and their own vegetables. And we really try to advocate for that. And people have just gotten away from that in so many ways.
So if you had a question to ask Tammy,
yeah,
in regards to what it is that you're doing and the struggles that she's gone through in building this giant movement, what would that be?
Exactly. Yeah. What can I do? What can I do to advocate for more of that? I'm trying to find a way. Is it a small business? Is it getting involved with these groups? Is it all those things? Like, what can I do to get more people educated on this and to grow their own food and to use less chemicals on their lawns, things like that?
Tammy, what does somebody do that's in his position, that's running a small nursery, trying to do the right thing? He's actually taking action and saying, I'm going to do this and I'm going to make this my mission, which, again, is the entire point of this show, is for people like that, okay? And it's for other people to realize this is not a we thing, it's a me thing. What am I going to do? Tammy, what could you tell somebody like that is in that position? They're small, probably, don't have millions of dollars to just be throwing around at things and learning on the fly. What advice can we give this guy?
Well, the March Against Monsanto team in Las Vegas actually spun off into a Grow Your Own Food festival that they have every year in October. Obviously, I mean, you're in Florida, so October's probably still relatively great weather. But what they do is they reach out to the community. They get a lot of stuff donated, and they basically have an afternoon, once a year in October, and they encourage the community to come out. They hold workshops. They screen some of the movies, in line with our movement. And they teach people how to grow their own food. And, I mean, just the community response has been incredible to watch. So I would really encourage you to maybe start thinking about doing something like that, to where if you have your own nursery, you already have a location, and just start inviting people to come in for like a free workshop and, start small and just start teaching them how to be self-sufficient and grow their own food.
Teach, educate, network, provide
That's
a platform,
exactly what we do at the farm, too. We have organic growing workshops, and you create a Facebook event page, and people are very interested in coming to learn about how to grow their own food. So that's exactly what I was going to suggest to Stefan.
And Stefan, and here's the thing. You've got the space, right?
Yeah.
You're either paying taxes on it because you own it, or you're renting it, or whatever. Like, you've got the space. You've got to find a way to utilize that space for your community. And keep in mind too, it doesn't have to be all about your business, right? It doesn't even there is a lot of overlap with any single issue. I don't care what issue we're talking about. There are people that like this that also care about that, and find them and bring them together somehow. So that's an excellent call. Give us a quick shout out for the name of your facility over there.
It's called Wilcox Nursery and Landscape. It's been in Largo, Florida since 1951. The current owner is 2001, and he's been advocating for native plants and habitat restoration and replacing lawns for a long time. And I've been a production manager there for about a year and a half.
Do you guys have a website that I can send people to real quick?
Yes, wilcoxnursery.com.
Excellent. That is absolutely great. We're going to try to slide in, and Tammy, you just let me know when you got to go, okay? We're going to try to slide in a couple more calls here, guys. I've got a list here. Do we have Jim from Pasco still on the phone? How about Carl from Plant City? All right, Carl, how are we doing?
Hey, good morning. How are you?
We're doing really good, man. We're doing good. This is a great conversation we're having. Just so everybody knows, we got the founder of March Against Monsanto on the phone with us.
Enthusiasm of the people. I just need to clarify something from the point of view of the scientists. I happen to be son of a farmer back in Germany, and I also have a master in biology. Just to clarify, guys, that everything we consume that is animal or plant is already genetically modified. Corn did not exist in nature until 11,000 years ago in the Americas. They start modifying it genetically from a grass, from the wild grass. Wheat didn't exist. Banana was non-existent unless, it was uneatable.
I think that you're making a good point there. That yes, things do change and whatnot. But definitely, Tammy, Claire, speak on that a little bit, because that's kind
absolutely
of
everything is modified. The only thing Monsanto is doing is just keep doing what we have been doing for thousands of years. And don't get me wrong, I'm completely against chemicals, so I don't use glyphosate and anything in the food I am producing in my own garden. So I just need to make you sure that we clarify that everything we consume is already modified, and we just keep doing the same for.
Okay, well let's let Tammy speak on that a little bit. I appreciate the phone call. You got it.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Well, we haven't been genetically modifying crops for 10,000 years. I mean, we were not, even 30 years ago, inserting bacteria or DNA from another species into a tomato or a potato or whatever.
With a gene gun.
With a gene gun, exactly. He's referring to hybridization, which is the natural
progression of things.
Yes. So to clarify, genetic modification and hybridization are two very different things.
I think that's probably one of your, from everything I've seen over the last, how long we've been doing this for, Tammy? 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? When was the first one?
2013.
Oh, my goodness.
A little over 4 years.
It's already been 4 years ago. That's terrifying.
Time flies.
All right, cool. Do we have, let's see, we try to grab a couple more callers here real quick. Do we still have Steve in Tampa on the phone? All right. Let's see here. Or Thermos in Sarasota. And I probably just butchered that name.
Hello?
Hey, how are we doing?
I am fine, and you did butcher it.
That's what I do, man. It's Hey, listen, somebody's got to try to read these things, okay? And if it's got to be me, that's cool.
It's cool, baby.
So what's
cool.
your question? What's your question for Tammy?
This is my take.
Let's hear it.
What I have not heard is the political ramifications of what is taking place worldwide, and not just with Monsanto, but with every natural inclination that exists on Earth today is being destroyed.
Tammy.
I feel you.
Tammy, why don't you run with that one for a little bit?
This is by design. Now, I haven't heard anyone tie in the Nazi movement and the Nazi infiltration into America and the American political science.
Hey, listen, we ain't going. That's another show. That's another topic.
Well, actually, I'll mention something about that.
The thing is that
here. Let's let Tammy answer this. Okay.
It's much bigger.
It is. It's global. You're right. Let's let Tammy answer that real quick.
All right. Okay.
So right now we have Bayer and Monsanto attempting to merge together, and as we all know, Bayer is just as horrible of a company as Monsanto. They're back in the Nazi days. They were actually their father company. I can't think of what the name is off the top of my head, but they produced the Zyklon gas that actually was used on the Jewish population in the concentration camps. And now Bayer creates like all kinds of horrible products. They had a HIV tainted pill, medication for hemophiliacs, the blood disorder. And they actually gave people HIV through this medication. And now we have this merger happening, which would cause a global monopoly on seeds and herbicides, pesticides. And the EU Commission is actually launching an investigation because at least one country in the world is realizing how corrupt the whole monopoly would be. So, I mean, yes, this is a global thing, and in a way, it being global helps us because other countries are going to jump on board and say, you know, this isn't right. If it was solely up to the United States, the merger would have went through a long time ago.
And I want to give a shout out to the bees as well, because Bayer is the manufacturer of the neonicotinoid insecticide that is killing the bees population. So they've been bad guys for a long time, just like Monsanto.
Give a shout out for their Facebook or something, Christine, there, where people can go for more on that. Do you have that on you?
Well, we have March Against Monsanto Tampa. We have Bee Against Monsanto Tampa as well. So they can check out those two Facebook pages that are local.
That's good stuff. I
and
mean,
what a disgusting marriage that would be. We've got Bayer killing the bees, and we've got Monsanto annihilating the monarch butterfly.
And controlling the food supply.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the end game here, guys? Let's talk to truth, okay?
Extinction.
The end game is owning the food supply and controlling the population.
The other end game. I thought you were going down the apocalyptic rabbit hole there.
You know, corporations, they just want more and more and more, you know?
More for me and less for you. Let's see if we can squeeze in a couple more callers here. Do we still have Deanna from Largo on the phone?
I am on the phone, and you guys are so far out of my league. We actually have a home garden.
That's the first time anybody's ever said that to me, Deanna. I appreciate that.
I mean, it's like I'm listening to you guys, and I'm so on board because I just know that they are trying to kill us, and I think obesity and all kinds of things are integrated in the GMOs. But like you said, it's hard to get away from it. My husband has taken over my backyard and my mother-in-law's backyard, and I actually bought him a tiller. And he is doing a victory garden, more or less. And I didn't hear you really talking a whole lot about that. And I will say that he's doing his bit, even though I didn't even realize it, because he plants from seed and anything extra. Anybody who knows him has got tomato plants and broccoli bushes to take home to put wherever they can find. And I've advised them to go ahead and just get the bags of soil if they don't have room and just plant them in that, and that they will be self-contained. I saw that on one of you guys' shows.
Do you have anything you'd like to ask Tammy real quick?
My big question is, now that we know, I'm listening and I'm worried. Am I getting seeds that have GMO seeds? How do I make sure that I get seeds that are real seeds?
You have to get them from somebody you trust or the USDA certified organic label.
Okay,
and
so
Baker Heirloom is a really good organization to go through. They're pretty reputable.
What was the name of that again, Tammy?
Baker Heirloom.
Baker Heirloom.
Okay. And I can put a list on the Sweetwood Organic Community Farms Facebook page today of the seeds where the companies that we get our seeds from that we know are heirloom and organic, if that helps.
Okay, so that's what I'm going to tell him then, because he just goes out and buys his seeds at Home Depot. So he's actually growing GMOs then.
Home Depot is not the place to buy seeds from.
Well, I will have. He does go to a nursery. He does go to a nursery. So I'm going to have to pull you up on Facebook and get him to read that, and get him to read that, so that we can get growing the right kind of stuff he's putting all his energy into. Thank you so much for the show. I've learned a lot.
Hey, you got it.
Mortified because of my grandkids.
Mortified is the reaction we're going for. Tammy, I've got a question. Gina here wants to ask you a question, which is a legitimate question for every organizer out there that's trying to do things. Gina, real quick, and then we got to get it wrapped up.
Hey there, it was amazing. This is, just so eye-opening when you see this and you hear about it. And I'm just so amazed by your movement that you did. So if someone were to do this, they feel passionate, about your topic or about another, how would you begin to even finance it? I mean, this large scale, how do you keep this going? Because there's a lot of moving parts to it.
Well, we are very, very grassroots. I mean, we do work with organizations like OCA that have like $1 million budgets because they're actually registered nonprofits. MAM is not. I never wanted to become an official nonprofit because you aren't allowed to be political in any way. And a big part of our movement is we speak out on corruption. I mean, we called out President Obama. We've called out, Heidi Heitkamp and numerous senators and congressmen and women who are corrupt and taking money from Monsanto. So I didn't want our political voice to be silenced. So we have maintained very grassroots. I mean, we put on these marches for minimal money. The ones that I do in Salt Lake, I don't think we've ever spent over $100 on the entire march. We get a lot of things donated.
Wow, that's very inspiring. Very inspiring.
So once you start reaching out to your community, you're going to find that there are people very on board with this mission, and they're going to want to help you.
Tammy?
We have a local... I'm sorry?
Tammy, I want to say I appreciate it. I would do an entire other hour with you here talking, okay?
Great
But we are officially out of time.
We're
I want
out
to
of
thank
time. Oh, no.
Yeah, no, Tammy, listen, let's talk after the show, okay? But I want everybody that was listening, I want to let you know that Tammy is the reason for this show, okay? Tammy had a passion. She did something with it. Okay, and a lot of you probably listen to this show and you think maybe it's a little too much, it's too aggressive. I don't care, okay? This show is geared for the person who decides they're not going to be a victim anymore. They want to get out and they want to do something, okay? So I appreciate everybody for listening. Call in next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Gina. Thank you, Tyler. Make it happen, Tampa.
All right.
Your country.
Don't call it a comeback. You've been listening to The Corner Launch on WMNF in Tampa. Stay tuned for Midpoint with Mark Biro. This is WMNF Tampa, St. Petersburg.